Hi YouTube, Edward Tyndall here and my grandpa Rupert Brown. We are doing another epic grandpa series, and this is a much awaited history of Fort Myers, Florida. This is going to be a long story, but I hope you all enjoy. And I'm sitting here with the man who made it possible down there. And you are on, Papa.
I was born in Fort Myers in 1930 on at the end of Bremen Avenue, where it come out to McGregor Boulevard, the road that went to the beach and to Sanibel Island. And across the road there was a station on the corner there that my daddy run back in the 30s, and had a little gas station there, and I don't know what all he had in there, probably not too much back then. And my mama and daddy always said I was born in an orange grove and a grapefruit grove, and if they wanted grapefruit for breakfast, they'd roll the window up and push the window up or open it and reach out and get a grapefruit off of a limb of a grapefruit tree that's growing right there next to the little old house we was living in. And one day, Mama missed me, and the river was right there. Clusiachi River was within about a half a mile of where we lived at. And I was about 3 years old, and I got out of the house and got away from my mother, and she got scared and got to hunt me, and I wouldn't. She didn't know where I was at, and it scared her. Thought I might have went to the river and got drowned, and she run over to the station and got my daddy, and he closed it up and come over, and they started to hunt me, and I heard my daddy, and I always thought the world of my daddy, and thought the world of my mother too, but my daddy was my buddy, and I started crying, and he liked to fish too, and he'd have fishing poles, and he'd keep the line on there, and he'd stick them under the house there. And I'd crawl under the house, and my diaper got hung up in one of them hooks, and I couldn't get out. And when Daddy heard me crying, he got down there and seen what was happening, and he pulled me and the pole out and took the hook out of my diaper and got me loose. And Mama said she wanted to whip my butt, but she'd rather grab me up and love me, because she was glad to find me. And but back in them days, Fort Myers wasn't.
Sorry, the batteries died. I had to change them. Go ahead, Papa.
Back in them days, there wasn't much roads. What roads there was a few paved roads there in Lee County. Most of them was dirt roads. And Daddy told me that there was a black car, a three-seater car, come up there every winter, just before winter time. Usually, he said, coming October or November, and gas up at that station. And when he gassed up at that station, they would give him $5. Well, $5 was more than he made all week back then. And he said they would go on, and then when they decide to come back, they'd stop there to gas up. What they was doing is going down to Sanibel Island. They'd go down there and get on the ferry and go across there on the ferry, and that was the only way you could get in there and back and forth unless you had a boat. And the ferry was at Ponderosa down there, and it run back and forth to Sanibel Island 2 or 3 times a day, and take cars over there and bring cars back. And he said when the same car, when it come back, it had 6 people in it, 2 people in the front seat and 2 in the middle seat, a man and a woman in the middle seat, and 2 men in the back seat. And he said they gas up again, they give him another $5 and take off. and he didn't know who they were, and good thing he probably didn't know, because within about a year after they was there, he said that come out in the paper a picture of John Dillinger. They had killed him at a movie theater, I believe it was, and they said that's who it was. He recognized him, and they had a home over there on Sanibel that they had spent during the winter time, and in the summertime, I guess they was robbing banks and stuff. So that was one thing that my daddy told me about, and I growed up there in Fort Myers, and went to school there. I started at Edgewood School out there in east Fort Myers, then moved over to J. Colin English on Pine Island Road. Then my daddy had a house. He bought a house on Washington Avenue going out towards Tice from Fort Myers there, in East Fort Myers, and my granddaddy owned some land in North Fort Myers, and he gave my daddy an acre of land, and we moved our house from Washington over in North Fort Myers, and they put a diner. The Cab Over Diner was in the road there in front of our house, and we lived on that river road that's about a mile across the other side of the Clusiachi River. And we lived over there, and then I went to school at the old junior high school down on 2nd Street, and left there and went to the senior high school up on it's Anderson Avenue back then, Martin Luther King now, I think, and finished school there. And then after I got out of school, my daddy and mama had a little hamburger joint over there across the road from the school, and they sold hamburgers, and a lot of the kids would go over there and buy hamburgers at noontime instead of eating in the lunch room, so John Deal, he had a little construction company across the road, and Mama kept telling him I wasn't very big back then. I only weighed 109 pounds, and well, I think I got probably up to 112 pounds. But during the time in the high school, me and Chill Williams was kind of buddies, and both of us was like to fight, and the people from Ohio, a lot of people from Ohio would come down to Fort Myers in the wintertime, and we thought Yankee was a bad word, you know, and all them boys that come down with them, their kids would come down and go to school in the wintertime, and we'd try every one of them. We had to have a little fight with every one of them. So one day we got into a scrap with a couple of them, and principal, he said he had the coach to take both of us down to the judge's office. Hiram Bryant, Judge Bryant was a judge then, and I didn't know what they was going to do, and I didn't want my daddy to know that I went to see no judge, because my daddy would skin my behind if he knew I was in that kind of a trouble. So the judge, he said, y'all boys like to fight? And we had to tell him yes, sir. And he said, if y'all like to fight, I'll get y'all a fight. And I didn't know what he was talking about. He said, well, I'll tell you what I can do. I can send y'all to Mariana to the boys' prison up there, or what it was they had up there in Mariana for young boys that wasn't doing right. or either y'all can join my boxing club. And I didn't know he had no boxing club. So I said, man, I'll join that boxing club if you won't tell my daddy. So old Judge Bryant said, I won't tell him, but you better be there tonight for start training. So me and old Chill, we started out there, going there about 3 or 4 nights a week, and get to training. Then they started having Golden Glove fights all over the state, and just about every town had a boxing club, or the police department had all the delinquents, I guess, they would gather them up and put them on their boxing club. And we fought all over the state of Florida, Miami, Jacksonville, Sarasota, Bradenton, anywhere, West Palm Beach. They'd take us to all of them. They'd make a fight night on a Friday night, and they'd load us up and take us. And I guess we got, after I was in the flyweight division, and I had the advantage on most of them because I was older than the ones that weighed 109 pounds, and I won the Golden Gloves 3 years in a row in the state of Florida. Then went for the one in Jacksonville, where the winner there got to go to New York to fight in the Madison Square Gardens. And I made it up there to Jacksonville, and there were so many there to eliminations. We had to fight two fights in one night, and that's just too much on you. And I fought a boy up there from Savannah, Georgia, had won 75 fights. And you know, he had to be good to win 75 fights. So and I was left-handed, and they didn't know it. And when they got in the ring, the bell rung, and they started to fight. The boy just come running over at my corner like a bad bulldog, and I was sitting down in the chair there, still standing up, and I jumped up and hit him and knocked him down. And if I'd have went to the neutral corner, I'd have won that fight, and I'd got to go to Madison Square Gardens. But the umpire, he finally took me to a corner and went back there and counted the old boy down to 6 times, 6 counts, and he got up. And it was a dog-eat-dog. He knocked me down 3 times, and I knocked him down 3 times. And the fight was a split decision. He got two of the judges give a fight to him, and one give it to me. But that was about the end of my fighting after that. Because when I got through fighting that night, I was so tired. I laid down in that dressing room, and I couldn't hardly pick my arms up. We had fought like 2 banty roosters. But it was fun. I enjoyed it, and it taught me a lot of discipline from going through that. And then when my mother had that little lunch stand, like a drive-in lunch stand there, and John Deal, he had a business across the street, and she kept after him to give me a job. And she wanted me to get to work, and I liked to ride horses back then. I rode a lot of horses and won a lot of races, and I even had a chance to go to California and ride out there, and the big races. And I told Mama she wanted me to go to finish school, and I said, I'll just go to school and I won't take that job out there. So I went ahead and finished school, and graduated in 1949, and but she wanted me to go to work, and John Deal gave me a job of doing driving a tractor on a little farm he had down there at Estero, and I worked down there about a year, and he had a construction company too, and he put me after the farm got over, he brought me in his construction company, and I started working in there. And but back then, there wasn't very many roads built. Lehigh Acres wasn't built. Cape Coral wasn't built. And when I started working for him, I worked 10 years for him, and I built the first line that went to Pine Island and Boquilla and St. James, telephone line, the first telephone line there. We built the first power line that went from Fort Myers to Immokalee. They had power in LaBelle, but they only had 2,300 volts power line there, and every time it rained, they wouldn't have no lights, and we redone it and put 1320 in there, and just done work all over Lee County. And the war in 1943, I think it was 42. They had during the Second World War, they built a big a field out there at Buckingham Air Force Base, and they had big B-24s and B-26s that flew out of there at Home in parachute. Most of them was ones that hauled them soldiers, and they parachuted out. And there's a training center there. It's the third largest air base in the world at one time. Then at Page Field, down on 41 south of Fort Myers, there was a little airport there that was already there. The local people had little airplanes there, and they took it and made a P-38. That was a plane, a little fighter plane that we had, the U.S. had, and they made a base there for it. So then there was, they moved a lot of soldiers from all over the country come to Fort Myers at that time during the war, and there was actually, when I was a kid, there wasn't but about 8,000 or 9,000 people in the whole Lee County. I was counting Boca Grande, Pine Island, St. James, Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel Island, Estero, all Lehigh. Well, Lehigh wasn't even started then, and it was I've seen the soldiers so thick. Daddy'd take us to church. My daddy'd go to church 3 times a week unless he was sick, you know, and he'd carry us kids to church. We went to Riverside Baptist Church, and we'd go back and forth. And on a Saturday night, I've seen the soldiers so thick on the Edison Bridge that you just could go along there about 3 or 4 miles an hour and get them out of your way so that you could get through there. They going back to Buckingham after about 8 or 8:30 at night, and then the army trucks would come in there and they'd pick them up and load I don't know 30 or 40 men on them and take them back. But they had been over there. There was 2 bars across the river there, and at Town Hall and that River Club there, that they'd go there and drink. But they might as well have had them a good time, because there's probably half of them never made it back from Germany, where they were sent. So I had a lot of experiences seeing Fort Myers grow up, and they wasn't the only stores I seen. There used to be a B&B grocery store there in Main Street and Henry, I believe it was, and beside of it they called it Judge's Wagon. It was a wagon like a wagon train that they had, and he had him a beer joint in there. And then there was a Penny's. They had a Penny store on First Street and a Sears and a couple shows, and then First National Bank was down there on the corner, and wasn't too much in. There's a few buildings and places of business, and beside that, then there was a clothing store there. Right, let's see, I forgot the name of it, but anyhow, they'd come on a Saturday. Daddy would take us all to town, and they'd get what few grocery we could afford, and he'd give each one of us kids a dime, and we'd go to there was me and my brother and my sister. We'd go to the arcade theater for a dime, and we'd stay there while they were doing a little shopping. And Carl Poole, he was a cowboy. He had a horse that he rode around in that country, and they'd run horse races right there in town. And one day we went to the show, and we come back. They'd had a race there down from one block to the other block. Wasn't very far through there, and Jimmy Flynn had a filling station there on Main Street, and it was behind his station, and then behind the dime store's place, and the horse run away with him and running through the window of Coley Westbrook's clothing store, right through a big plate glass window, and that stopped the horse racing in town there. And then we got a job after the war. Then Lehigh Ratner bought a piece of land out there at Lehigh Acres and made a ranch there, and it was a ranch for a couple years, and they decided to develop it, and we built the first telephone line to Lehigh Acres, and so we did a deal. John Deal had that construction company, and that's what we did, was power line work and for the telephone company. Then after 10 years I worked there, John, he was getting older, and he wanted me to take over his little business, so I bought it out from him. He let me buy it so much a month that I could pay for it, and I built it up to where it was a pretty good sized little business. We moved houses and did power line work and clearing, done a little bit of everything to try to make a living back then, and it was just a blessing how that Fort Myers grew, and after the war, a lot of the men that was stationed there, they come back. They liked it in Fort Myers, and they come back and made homes there, and that's what helped build Fort Myers up back then, and it just kept growing, and now you wouldn't even know it grew from about 9,000 to, I think there's somewhere around 800,000 or 900,000 people live there. About 1 million people lives in the area the whole county covers, and they built I know when I was a kid and lived on Washington Street, my daddy, it was you couldn't get a job and things were really tough, and he went to work for the WPA, and a lot of people said that we poke along, but those men had to work hard. They had to load dump trucks with shovels. Didn't have no equipment back then to load it. And I remember when they built the Lee Memorial Hospital there, the men that worked for WPA, they must had 25 little dump trucks, about 5-yard dump trucks, and they'd go out there to the river, the other side of Alga, in between Alga and Alba, and on the riverbank, there's where they dredged that river out and made it wider and deeper, and they'd load them trucks all day long to drive into where the Lee Memorial Hospital, the first part of it, was built there, and the hospital used to be a 2-story wooden hospital right off of McGregor, not McGregor, but 41 South there, right close to in town there, and they finally got that built, and when I was in school, and let's see, and the Fort Myers High School was the only high school in Fort Myers that was there on Anderson Avenue, and they built the one down there off of 41 right there, the highway patrol station down in that area, and that was the I think when I graduated out of school, there was only I think in my class, 1949, there was 140 people that graduated. Now I don't know, there's a world of them that graduated, and they got schools all over Fort Myers and new roads and everything, and it's just a place that it's just about like Miami trying to get around there now. So I was down there not too long ago, and it just surprised me of the new roads and the progress that Fort Myers has made, and it was a wonderful place to live in when I was growing up, but I moved up to Alabama, and I just turned out to be an old country hick up here. I don't go nowhere. I stay pretty close to the house all the time. I'm 85 years old, and can't do much anymore but go to church, and that's about all I do. And I just told my grandson that I knew a little bit about Fort Myers growing up there and how it developed and all, and he wanted me to make a little story out of it, and that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Papa. I know they will. Make sure to like and subscribe and tell your friends. Peace, love, and happiness and all that good shit.